And welcome back, guys, to the, I guess we could say episode 2 of the AF Arena Football Roundtable discussion series. I'm Tim Capper from ArenaFan. We have Sam Shady from Shady Sports Network. We got Scott Birk from Arena Fan Zone. And new to the roundtable this week is Joshua from Rebound Off the Net. By the way, Joshua, my lawyers are going to be reaching out to you. You've stolen my ending to my podcast. No, I'm kidding, man. I'm good. Welcome to the crew. Welcome to the crew. For anybody who doesn't know about you, Joshua, go ahead and let us know who you are, what you do, and how you got involved in enjoying the AFL.
Yeah, I've followed the AFL for a long time, since the early 2000s. Was a Dallas Brothers fan back in the day, become a Nashville Cats fan a little bit later on too. So I've been around the AFL for a long time. I love the AFL. Glad it's coming back. So I started this up back in August, Rebound Off the Net. Work on this with my brother, and we're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all that. So yeah, love the league. So glad it's back.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Obviously, you know, with the wanted to come again and talk about the league itself, any of the new stuff that has been announced by teams and usually the league itself and stuff like that. We were hoping there were rumors of an announcement for tonight, but actually a couple of them, whether it be league related or team related, they didn't seem to pan out, at least this week. I guess my first question to you guys is this: when it is teased, like it was last week on Orlando's coaches show, when it was on Albany's coaches show, they tease a specific date, and it doesn't come about. Obviously, it's happened multiple times this season already, this offseason already. Does it frustrate you guys, or is it just a nature of the business the way that it is?
I can definitely say I'm frustrated. As you guys know from our group chat recently, I don't. It's not frustration with the league per se. It's frustration because then that just opens the door for more doubt. And we all know here there's been plenty of that about the AFL this year. And I just don't think that necessarily they're doing themselves any favor in that realms. I understand that there's probably bigger reasons why that I may never know. But, there is definitely some frustration there on my part, to be completely honest. I wish the news was out there. I wish we could talk about it, and I wish we could, parade how awesome it is going to be. But at the same time, we're not there yet. So, I got to learn to be a little bit more patient with the league and with everything that's coming on. Because, this is definitely a big thing, and it takes a lot of development to get there.
For sure. Joshua, thoughts?
Yeah, I just wish there was kind of more information, for sure. I just wish I wish Lee Hutton and Terrell Gaines would kind of say a little bit more. Not like, I know there's some stuff they cannot say, but I wish they were kind of like put out statements and stuff to kind of in the speculation and all that. And well, they're not going to end the speculation, but just to kind of just to have something out there instead of just curiosity and wondering and what's going on. So.
Yeah.
And honestly, I kind of echo a little bit what you're all saying. I mean, at the same time, I do understand. Hey, it is the nature of the business. Especially when you have as many doubters as you have, you want to make sure, all your I's are dotted, all your T's are crossed. You don't want to give anybody that chance of oh, look, this didn't happen again. So I get it. But yeah, of course, I'm frustrated. I'm excited about this. That I'm one of the people that fell for that fake St. Louis Twitter account when this all got going. Why? Because I'm excited about it. So yeah, we're all anxious. We're all ready to get this information, and it does seem like the season's coming, and it is. But this kind of stuff can technically wait.
Yeah, that I will admit, Scott, what you're talking about with the people creating the fake Twitter accounts and stuff like that was the time of the most hype. I think it's where nothing was really known. We hadn't had the presser yet for from New York City, and getting at least the draft schedules that we had received and stuff like that from the league and stuff like that. But I guess I'll just go ahead and say it now, because since we're talking about not getting any information or announcements from the league, there's one thing I can announce to you guys and to everybody who are watching us on the stream tonight, is that I have gotten confirmation from a league source that it has been confirmed that the Albany Orlando game, which would be in week 1 of the 2024 season, so April 27th, will be on NFL Network. It will be on NFL Network. So I guess it kind of, it does. I guess if it is going to be the case where the NFL Network is going to be the main TV partner, this actually really gives a lot of credence and a lot of, it really show that the NFL Network, it's going to be the NFL Network. I mean, it's kind of a it's kind of something that I think we all kind of expected, just based on the hints that we were receiving. But it's some news anyways now, guys. I mean, it looks like it is going to be NFL Network, maybe more than just the NFL Network. I don't know, but hearing now that at least there's some concrete information out stating that the first game will be on NFL Network. Does it change your? Does it change what you guys are thinking in any way?
I mean, the excitement's real, but yeah. I think the next question comes into what time, because is this how close are they going to time this to the end of the NFL draft? How soon will Mr. Irrelevant be picked, and then they're kicking it over to the AFL game? Because that's a heck of a lead in.
That's true. That's true. If it goes according to what the current Albany seems to be pretty spot on with their schedule so far. No changes so far. Is that it should be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So
I'd be curious to see what time the draft is going to end.
That's the thing, and I'm sure the old school AFLers will remember too. Is like if you go back to the days where it was on NFL Network. The Arena Bowl in New Orleans being bumped by the Johnny Manziel preseason game. I remember because I was in New Orleans covering the Arena Bowl for ArenaFan, and I think it got bumped to 9:30. I think, if I'm not mistaken, or was it 10? It was something
at least
ridiculous.
9. Yeah, it was at least 9 o'clock. It was bad.
So, Sam, now hearing that at least NFL Network is one of the broadcast partners for 2024. Thoughts? Do you think it can go more than the NFL Network? Do you think it, or is it just going to be multiple games on the NFL Network throughout the season?
First of all, with it coming from you, I feel a lot better, to be quite honest. I mean, I've heard it a lot, but never from anybody that I was maybe 100% certain knew exactly what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. There's been some people that I definitely trust have said it, and I knew I was leaning that way, but hearing it from you and league sources, that makes me feel a lot better. But to be completely honest, I think that they're probably still very much open to other broadcast partners if there is the opening for that. I mean, why wouldn't you be at this time? I mean, especially when you've got a model like the MLS that's done that with a lot of success and kind of sell broadcast rights to different companies and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious to see how they kind of go forward with that. And I know I've heard, what was it, Amazon Prime at one point?
Yeah, we were at Amazon Prime. I think the last one I mentioned, it was Max Sports and stuff like that. So who knows? Again, will be others than just NFL Network? I don't know. That's one thing I honestly don't know if it's just more than NFL. So
and when we had the new Iowa general manager on our coaches show, he could have misspoken. It could have been a slip. He did mention something about CBS. Now, he just said CBS, could be CBS Sports, could be CBS proper. It could just be an error. He was still fairly new to the job. So, I don't want to say 100% anything, but possibly, that could possibly be a thing.
Yeah, it's possible. Sam, bring up Charles's question, please, if you can. Just want to at least let everybody see it. I don't, Charles, I don't have any more information other than what was given to me tonight, right before I came on the stream. But I'm, what? And this is just me speculating. I guess watch the Albany coaches show tomorrow night. They've always been very they've always been very good at teasing things. I'm sure they'll mention something tomorrow night if there has been a change, whether it was pushed a week or whether it was pushed a little bit longer than that. We are at the mercy. The league is at the mercy of NFL Network, and I guess it's either the wanting to make the announcement prior to the combine, or if they just want to do it post combine. So I guess we'll have to find out. So, but it makes sense. Joshua, thoughts? At least we now know one game that's going to be nationally televised.
Yeah, I'm excited for NFL Network. I've kind of known that for a while, but excited about that, and I think that gives the league great credibility. I hope we can eventually, 4 or 5 years from now, get back to the NBC, ESPN, that kind of thing. But I think this helps a lot and gives the league a lot of credibility, especially with the people that want to see it crumble. So they can help.
Yeah, and to the point that was just brought up too by the Facebook user, who we don't have a name here, but it's not that this has been the narrative, from what I understand, for quite a while. There is a partnership between the league and the broadcast partner, and based off of the broadcast partners, and I guess we could say at least NFL Network, it's on their schedule. It's on their schedule. So we'll see.
Any thoughts about this one, guys?
Makes sense. I mean, Thursday games are not a good draw historically.
Yeah, I mean, even for the NFL, I mean, traditionally.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other reason to delay it.
Well, I think what's funny is Thursday night seemed to, Thursday night seemed to be the big thing for the CFL. It's like, and I hate Thursday games. I hate Thursday games. I know had a couple of other things that we wanted to talk about tonight. Just off the cuff, guys. Here, Scott. I think there was a couple of things that you had brought up that you wanted to talk about. What were one of those subjects that we wanted to talk about tonight?
There's been, we kind of brought up some of the naysayers prior, and and we watch all the different sites and see what people are saying and what's going on. One of which being brought up recently is someone dug up the trademark listings for arena football, and I don't know if they got accurate information based on what they were putting out into the social media space. It was basically, and I'm not having to paraphrase, I don't have this in front of me. Essentially, they were saying the trademark was owned by G6 Sports Entertainment, something along those lines. And just to kind of clarify some things, G6 was on the original or AFL website when they first made their announcement. G6 was listed there. And then also it got brought up in one of the many Discord servers out there that the address used for G6 Sports Group, I've got that here, is the same address that Darren Arbette has for some of his businesses. We know Darren Arbette's part of the Arizona Bandits. We know the Arizona Bandits are part of the AFL. It's all tied together. Whether it's under the current LLC or it's being transferred or whatever it is in the status, G6 is part of this from the beginning. I mean, I think that's pretty clear that's kind of what's going on here.
I will admit, I mean, we're usually the USPTO is, I'm sure is the place to go and find stuff that's already been trademarked and stuff like that, like logos that haven't come around yet and stuff like that. And I'm not really one to be able to comment or on this type of thing because it's not really in my wheelhouse. But I mean, only thing I can say is that I'm sure that whoever owns the rights to all the trademarks that were purchased in the bankruptcy sale, the due diligence is going to be done, because I don't. Does anybody really know what the turnaround time is for updating something on the trademark site? I don't. And obviously they could have, they could have filed it in another state. So I mean, I really don't know what the turnaround time is. So, but there's so many dead trademarks out there for the AFL. The ones that weren't renewed. The guy, AFL HQ, Travell Gaines, Commissioner Hutton, and others. There are a lot of guys behind the scenes that we don't know about. they're going to do their job. They're going to do what they need to do because they're going to, from what I've seen and what you guys have seen, I'm sure too, they're going to do it right. So I have no question saying, I have no problem saying that they own the AFL trademarks. So none.
And Commissioner Hutton's made very clear he is a lawyer, and he knows what he's doing when it comes to these kind of issues. This is the least. So the least of my concerns with the league is the trademark.
Yeah, exactly. Sam, anything?
A couple thoughts, mainly based on questions that are kind of rolling in. I was kind of paying attention to that stuff, but a couple interesting concerns. This one in particular, I don't mean to laugh, but this is kind of funny. Are any of you concerned that some teams do not have an adequate number of players signed with the season so close to starting? Anyone want to touch on this one yet?
Josh?
I'm trying to think of who that would be because most of the teams have good amounts.
I'm guessing they're referring to probably the Georgia or maybe
Georgia.
Yeah.
Philly,
You know what,
Nashville.
guys? From what I'm going to just throw something out there. I really think that most of these teams are basically completed, even with the head coaching change
Pretty
in
close.
Georgia. I really think that even because why have all these teams are still having tryouts, so I think they're a lot closer. I don't think there's any concern.
Not every signing's made public right away either.
As
Not
we've
even
seen,
close.
yeah.
I think like Rapid City's just now starting to drop theirs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a funny story about Rapid City in particular dropping their information now. I contacted Coach 3 months ago, Coach King, that is, to send him some players, and he was like, "We're good. We could play this Saturday." I'm like, "Okay, Coach."
Wow.
And then we just weren't seeing announcements, and then all of a sudden they just started rolling out one right after another. So that's proof in the pudding right there. I mean, these teams are not going to put out the information until they're ready to. So I guarantee there's every team in this league has players signed that have not been announced yet by the team, or haven't even been submitted to the league as of yet. There's a certain amount of time that goes in between each step in that process to where the information is public to everybody. So, and then like I said, if they choose not to put out that information for whatever reason, that's per the discretion of the team. But I can also tell you that some of this is by design. You look at a lot of these players that are signing with these teams recently, in particular, and they're coming from the CFL, they're coming from the UFL. Well, what do we have coming up here recently? We've got some cut down dates in the UFL. In particular, I believe Mike Mitchell just reported on the fact that I believe it's March 15th. There's going to be another cut down date coming in the UFL to where there's going to be another 150 to 200 players that come available from one of the main sources of talent the AFL is getting their players from. So
I was going to say each team's probably holding 1 to 5 roster spots open for somebody, something, whatever comes up in a tryout, whatever, these cuts.
Exactly.
It'll be a free for all between the AFL, the CFL.
Yep.
Because the CFL camp starts in May. So, by the way, another question here, and it's actually what we're talking about now is probably a good way to lead into something too. Is that does every team have a head coach signed? The answer is yes. If you want, you can head over to ArenaFan.com, check out the coaches tab. All of them are listed there. You can't miss them, and all the teams that they are currently coaching for, they are all there. And speaking of, and we'll move on to the other thing I wanted to talk about. Speaking of coaches, and a question there was about the Georgia Force. They have had a change in head coach, but to me, guys, this actually it just increases the knowledge of the coaching base in the AFL because of these guys who played originally as players in the old AFL. Georgia, and funny, guys, it was actually unofficially announced, but it was confirmed, through a post for a tryout for the Georgia Force. And AFL legend Derwood Rockmore is going to be the head coach of the Georgia Force. So I can't wait. If I'm not mistaken, that makes I think that makes 10 teams that have head coaches that played in the AFL originally. So, hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for the experience, man. I mean, just look at some of these rosters, some of these coaching. I think we mentioned it last show. Some of the coaching staffs. It's just you could Iowa as an example, Scott.
All-star team, straight up all-star team.
Yeah,
There.
yeah. And look what it is over in Billings. You got Sed Bonner. You got Coach Walker. I mean, it's crazy what they have as these coaching staffs. So
Nashville's going to have a lot of former Cats players too.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
What's your thought on Dean Kokinos being hired as head coach?
You got me?
Anybody?
Sorry.
Because if anybody remembers how his last stint in the AFL did not go very well. He was the head coach for the Washington Valor, and this was an anemic Washington Valor team. So, is it, he is experienced? Yes. Maybe things have changed. Yes, since his last stint, I think it was 2018. I think either 2018 or I think it was 2018. No, that's when they won the title. So it's been 2017. So. Thoughts? I mean, he is experienced, but I mean, there are so many other former head coaches out there that I thought that would be looked at and weren't. But thoughts, guys? Anybody?
I'm not as concerned about Dean Kokinos as you are personally, but that's only because the other coaches that are in the league. I think that his experience is very valuable, But at the same time, to be completely honest, this could shake out a way that none of us expect. It could end up being a coach that has zero experience in arena football rules and comes out into left field to kind of surprise everybody. And personally, I mean, I could see that happening with a couple different teams. I could also see a team like Albany, where you've got Damon Ware, who's coached arena rules football for a long time, just come through and roll through the league as well. So, man. The one thing I like to see is that I'm sure you guys have noticed as much as I have recently is there's been a lot of name value signed to the league in terms of players from the CFL, from the UFL, recent names that people should recognize. And I think it brings a lot of credibility to these teams and these leagues right away.
I kind of echo what you're saying too. I think with this league, with so many players in this league learning this game for the first time, I think having AFL experience, I think, is huge. Would I be thrilled if he was hired for my team in AFL 2.0? Probably not. But in this situation, I think he's got an opportunity to really kind of, bring back, what he, and bring back his name basically into this game.
Yeah, I really like Dean. He's lived in Nashville for a long time too, so he knows the city, he knows the area, and I think that helps a whole lot. So I think that was a big draw of them hiring him. Sure.
Now, we were talking about rosters before, and this is one of the things that was brought up, and I don't think we were able to talk about it in the last show, but another indoor league as commissioner has kind of hinted at, didn't say the AFL, but hinted at that other indoor leagues were poaching their players so that they are not going to be putting their transactions up on their page anymore. Now, I think it goes back to December where they weren't doing it, so I don't know why it made the news cycle now. I guess just as off of a random comment. But thought any thoughts on this, guys? I mean, this is not, this is football. It's not necessarily just indoor football, it's football. And my only thought would be is because some of the indoor football fans are kind of upset that there's some of their stars, and some of their stars are being signed by the AFL.
I would love for somebody to poach me for my job, making 4 to 5 times my salary. I'd be thrilled. I mean, that's just kind of what it boils down to. You don't want your players poached, pay them more. Just flat out, that's what it comes down to. Take care of your players, pay them I mean, you can play in the AFL for 4 weeks, make as much as you're going to make in the IFL for the entire season. It's a no-brainer.
You had the odd Matt Elam situation with Orlando too, though, where he went back to the IFL. So.
Well, weirder things have happened. We don't know the full circumstances behind that, though. But I don't remember hearing, all the leagues, praise these players when they get signed by the CFL, et cetera, et cetera. Albany had that also recently too with one of their quarterbacks who was signed by Edmonton. I don't remember them complaining about, when Northern Arizona had the he was the offensive player of the year last year for the league. He was signed by the Montreal Alouettes. I don't see them saying that he was poached.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's
a promotion, just flat out. And they may not see themselves as a lesser league, and I don't even want to call them a lesser league. That's really not quite appropriate. But like I said, you are what you pay. You're going to get the talent that you pay for, and $200 a week, $250 a week doesn't cut it like it did at one point. Not that I don't think it ever really did.
Yeah, but it's football. It's and you know what? Even if the transactions aren't there, I'm sure the players or their agents are reaching out to these other leagues for sure. We don't know what the AFL is going to do officially. There's no section yet for transactions for the website yet. I think Sam, you've been doing some stuff, if I'm not mistaken, right? You've been compiling them, and it's tough. I wish we have to figure out what it is, because we want the rosters. If any of us are going to do fantasy football, we need rosters.
Exactly.
Given the partnership I'm seeing them and I'm seeing and hearing with the casinos in this league, I think we're going to have plenty of access to updated rosters when time comes.
Yeah.
And I would assume some very clear and concise injury reports in a timely manner if I have, any inclination about what's going on. A couple questions I wanted to get to. Real quick, I wanted to get to this poaching thing. Tim, you touched on that real quick and you kind of breezed over it. I wanted to get back to it.
Yeah.
You said something about agents shopping players to the AFL who might be signed with an IFL team. And I personally have been in this situation a couple different times. I've been helping a couple different AFL teams. I always refer players to any team. So you can ask coaches in any league. They've all gotten emails from me at some point or another about a player that I like. But with that in mind, I've been sent guys by agents who know that I do this, and I'll send them to a coach or I'll send them to somebody or whatever. And then I find out after the fact that they're signed to an IFL team and they haven't been announced by that team yet. And their agents are actively shopping them as if they're a free agent. So while we say that teams are poaching IFL players, that's not necessarily the truth. Some of these guys aren't even telling teams that they're signed until after the fact. Oh, yeah, by the way, I was signed to this IFL team, before I signed with you guys. And
why would you? As a player, why would you?
Exactly. And I don't mean to be rude about it, but at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you. And to be completely honest, I think at the end of the day, if we really break it down, I really think the IFL is searching for a different kind of player than the AFL is. And eventually, outside of maybe quarterback, that's the one position that you can argue they're both looking for great passers, potentially with some running ability. But, at the end of the day, I think long term, this will shake out to where more veteran players go to the AFL because they know that they may never progress to CFL, UFL, NFL, and they want to make that money. Younger players that have specialized in one position their entire career are most likely going to choose the IFL because of, multiple reasons. First of all, you see the guys that are signed out of the IFL from the CFL and the UFL all the time. So, that's going to be an attracting factor. So I think long term, this is all just going to shake out to where they're not really looking at the same players. It's just we're in this transition period where the AFL did not exist, and now they do. So, of course, some players are going to split off. It's natural. But I want to also say that the IFL has had no drop off in talent. Anybody who says they have isn't really paying attention. A lot of these guys they're bringing in are up and coming players who have not had a chance to start their professional careers, and they're going to be good. Asher O'Hara in Quad City, that's a quarterback to watch. So, I mean, just not to get off track here too much, but this could be a benefit to fans everywhere because then we get to see players that have not gotten to play yet. So, just my 2 cents on something that I think is kind of silly to begin with.
My thought would be is that as long as these guys that were in the IFL originally and were big names in the IFL and they came over to the AFL, my thought would be is this: as long as their contract was up, I have no problem with the AFL signing them. Now, what their status was with the contract, I don't know. That's one thing we don't know. You might, Sam, you actually may know better than we would, but I don't. As far as if their contract is up, it's fair game. It's fair game. And even if they have an option year left, some of these guys go up. As said, they're praised for going to the CFL or going to the NFL. They just put them on the suspended list. So, it's like it's always been in the AFL. It's like it's always been in the AFL.
And like I said, if you're getting paid 4 to 5 times more, and you can make as much in 4 games as you can entire season, and your only penalty for dropping your IFL contract to play in the AFL for 4 games, let's say it's only 4 games, is that you have to sit out a season in the IFL. It's 4 games for a season's worth of pay. I mean, again, to me, it's just an absolute no-brainer. It ultimately it is a promotion. It is going the next step.
I think what people forget too, by the way, we're talking about this poaching garbage, is that don't people remember what happened, what the IFL did to AFL players when the league folded?
Mm-hmm.
They banned them. They would not allow any teams to sign former AFL players up until, I think it was until the next season after that.
Yep.
The season after COVID, I think, or 2021.
Well,
that's ridiculous.
Well, it's also taking into account the CIF pulled their transactions because the IFL is poaching players from the CIF.
Yep.
It's not like this is something that, they were horrified this time. They were doing it last year. So
that's the part that cracks me up about it. We watched this all last year with the NAL. The NAL had an uncapped year, so it was no different. I mean, like literally, it's just goofy. Like honestly, the hate that comes towards the AFL is just bizarre to me, because every scenario that has popped up with the AFL has happened in another league and gotten less attention because of it being in another league, and that's literally all it is. It's because of the name.
You mean like the IFL rescheduling games?
Yeah, or teams folding, or whatever the assumption might be. Yeah, it's just no matter what happens, I will tell you right now with 100% certainty, and anybody who wants to quote me on this, go ahead, clip this clip right now, keep it. The AFL will not only play their entire 24 season, we will watch the United Bowl. That will happen. I'm not saying every team's going to make it till the end of the season, but I will tell you they will complete the 2024 season, not a doubt in my mind. So past that, I don't know what happens, to be completely honest, but I can tell you right now, they will complete their 2024 season. I can't tell you how many teams will be left. I can't tell you any of that, but at the end of the day, I know they will complete that season.
I have high hopes they'll all be around, but
yeah, I have high hopes too. That all teams, that there will be a way, if the money was put aside like it was supposed to, the early rumors. If a team goes into financial straits, then yeah, I have no problems saying that all 16 teams will go through. So
I sincerely hope so as well. I mean, at this point, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if all 16 made it. I feel a lot better now that we have the news about Durwood Rockmore, the tryouts, and Georgia's starting to collect players. There are still a lot of questions. In fact, Casey, I'm not ignoring you. This is a great question that I feel like we should probably address. Do we know how many teams actually have arena deals in place right now?
All
that's
of them.
A great question.
All of them.
I think it's fair to say
all of them.
We don't know the arena deals necessarily.
No, but
we know they're in place.
Every team has an arena. Every team has an arena. That take to the bank. Every team has an arena.
Yeah.
Now, all T's crossed and I's dotted. It's logistics. I think logistics. So,
yeah, a lot of it, and for more reasons than you can ever really truly imagine, unless you're in those rooms. I mean, you know, at Casey, you're an owner. You know as much as anybody that a lot of that stuff is more complicated than any fan can imagine. So, I've also got some other questions here that I wanted to get to that I thought were good ones as well. This one in particular from Overtime and Underdog. Jake Medlock and Danny Southwick coming back is a head scratcher for me. Do you think they were brought in to mentor newbies to Arena? Anybody want to take that one?
Southwick's just kind of the ultimate journeyman.
No kidding, eh? We thought Aaron Garcia was. No, it's Danny Southwick.
Agreed.
We could throw JJ Raderick into there too, man, but he's not playing, so
that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, I'm not sure who Danny hasn't played for at this point.
Yeah, I think it's both. I honestly think it's both, guy. In my opinion, I think it's both because you want to have some of these quarterbacks who have played the arena game before, and you want to be able to teach them the game properly. You know, because as we saw as an example with Kurt Warner, he had to get used to the nuances of the game. You know, and all the other quarterbacks, if you go back and you check some of the greats in the AFL, you know, whether it be a JJ Raderick, whether it be, you know, a Clint Dozo, whether it be Aaron Garcia, whether, you know, on and on and on and on. They all had to get used to the game, but they were given the shot. They were given that shot, and they had the coaches. I think that's why it's so perfect when you have some of these teams that have AFL experience on the coaching staff. It works. It works. So, I mean,
agreed.
I think it's a combination of both. I wouldn't. If Southwick starts, he starts. You know, fine with that.
Yeah.
You know.
I would. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
No. I was gonna say. I mean, you look who Albany just brought in, a guy who's never had any indoor experience, and Will Arndt from Ottawa Red Blacks. You know, he left a coaching job to come play.
Yep.
So.
You know, and Kansas City did that years ago. You know, they decided, and I'll tell you what, ownership was thrilled about bringing in a third-round NFL draft pick to play quarterback, and he stunk it up. Never played indoor ball of any kind. Now, thankfully for him, he went on to indoor ball and actually had a very good career playing indoor football. But his first year playing in an arena, he just wasn't good. You know, there's something to be said about experience when it comes to this game.
Yeah. This week at Arena Ball, even Philly has an arena.
Yes, that's confirmed.
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, they have currently they have 2 home games scheduled on their schedule.
Yep.
For the moment.
I'd like to see a few more come out. But
oh yeah, I agree.
But it's a start.
Yeah, it's a start.
Absolutely.
I just want to give a quick thing and just to go over it real quickly because I know there's some other topics. As a lot of people know, you know, there's been some hints and rumors. And I put out some teasers too about, you know, the league. This is one of the few things that actually has stayed constant, which I love to hear. Is that the league was and Commissioner Hutton was promoting a documentary series that they were going to do. I can tell you that is a thing because I should know. I took part in it. What are your thoughts, guys, on this? I mean, the guys that they had, it was top notch. I mean, it was done in one weekend for my portion of it. I'm curious to see if the league's when it's gonna be. I'm curious to see a teaser for it. I'm curious to know the name for it. How long these are going to be, you know, that type of thing. Are they going to be on our television broadcaster? Are they going to be online? I would imagine so. How the league is promoting that they're going to be on a lot of streaming services and stuff like that. What do you guys want to see from this AFL series? If it looks like it is start going from the relaunch of the AFL on through the Arena Bowl, what are you guys looking to see? And if you were to name the series, what would you name it? And Joshua, I'll start with you first.
Oh gosh. Let me think for a second. Sorry.
Put him on the spot there.
Scott, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, my
Because we all go back to the LA thing. I mean, I just hope it's not the LA thing. And by the way, getting JJ Rettering, speaking of before, him talking about being a part of that.
Oh man,
stories for days. Oh my God. But sorry, I kind of
no. So my first thought, knowing that NFL Network's involved, knowing that there's nothing going on that channel all summer long, I would love to see it be a weekly series on the NFL Network. Now that might be a pipe dream. It depends on how tight they are. I mean, I believe the commissioner has some pretty good ties in with some pretty high end NFL people. So hopefully, it's a larger partnership than just, hey, here's your one game, have fun, see you next week.
Yeah.
Again, that might be a pipe dream. It could just be wishful thinking, but I'd like to see something like that. Name wise, I mean, man, there's been so many good ones that have already been used. I mean, probably want to stay away from things like War on the Floor, so you don't want to bring up war and that kind of stuff. Yeah, War on the Floor. There you go. It's definitely been used.
Here's an interesting one.
Gladiators of the Future.
Care to explain that one? Overtime Underdog?
Yeah. AFL Game Day was mentioned by the commissioner at one point about wanting to have a college game day kind of experience for some of these. So maybe there is an AFL Game Day.
Oh, here's a good one. I'm surprised that's not already a podcast. I know we have behind the walls, inside the walls.
I think there's been a between the walls at some point.
Yeah, it was BJ Pickard, the CFL's old media director had it. His thing was called Between the Walls.
Is that he's got a book, doesn't he?
Yeah, I have a copy over here. Yeah.
Man, we got a lot of suggestions rolling in all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, Jeff Foley's book was amazing. Jeff Foley's book was absolutely amazing. There's another throwback to the arena football days. I would hope Jeff would be there for the opener. Sam, what are you hoping for a docuseries, and what would you name it?
Name. I don't think I have an intelligent answer for you there. But to be completely honest, I mean, I just like the fact that they're doing the show. I mean, really, I would love to see something that's like truly behind the scenes. I want to see some of the mistakes, some of the wrongs that have happened and why they unfolded, and maybe we get some more background on why everything happened the way it happened. And maybe we don't get that for many years, and maybe year one's kind of that's kind of wishful thinking on my part, but I just think some explanation behind some of the things that have happened and why they've happened the way they've happened would be interesting to see, especially in with actual some video proof behind it, but as far as what they're doing now, I personally think that somewhat like Hard Knocks, but not quite. Basically a peek behind the scenes, get to know some of the players, kind of build up some of the mystique around the guys that are going to be the stars, or you expect to be the stars in the league, and do so in a way that isn't necessarily strictly on field, because a lot of these guys have interesting stories off the field as well, as we all know, very in particular.
And that's actually the thing I like most about Hard Knocks. I think super conducive to AFL is maybe not the stars, because the stars are going to find out who they are regardless. I mean, everyone back in the day knew who Donovan Morgan was. He just did. But there's those other guys. Colin Taylor. He was a third receiver on Cleveland, way better than the third receiver for any other team, but third receiver on Cleveland, great guy, personality wise, one of the greatest people you could have. Put him in front of or behind a microphone, and he's one of the most dynamic people you could possibly want. But that's the kind of thing where you get that Hard Knocks type thing, and you get to know those other people that you don't necessarily get to know because they're not catching every touchdown. They're not the one they're constantly talking about on every broadcast. But personality-wise, those are people you actually get to meet and form that relationship with. And, that's what the AFL is about. It's about those relationships.
Do you think that's why they expanded the Hard Knocks series and doing it a weekly series during the season?
I hope so. And that's what I like most about this is getting to know some of these other players that I never would have known half these guys in the Dolphins if it wasn't for Hard Knocks this year.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Joshua, you're not being let off the hook here, buddy.
Return to former glory.
I like it.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I'd like to see some conversations like video conversations with Lee Hutton and Travell Gaines of actually going through the process. I think that would be really neat and kind of learn the details behind the scenes. So, if that's possible.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm curious. I'm hoping. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. We were talking about the AFL game day type of thing. It kind of led us into the made me think of the old TNN days and the NBC days where they did have a pregame show. Jill Arrington and leading up to to the game itself. The guys are with NBC. But it's funny. It kind of the ties there. It leads us into somebody very well known in the Southeast, especially if you're a Bama fan. The Nashville Cats have brought back an old TNN favorite for at least their radio broadcasts. What are your thoughts, guys, on the Cats bringing back? Can we call him an AFL TV legend in Eli Gold? Why not? He's also obviously he's a radio god when it comes to Bama football. But thoughts on bringing back Eli Gold?
Amazing. I think it's great. To me, some of the best memories I have about arena football are the calls that we heard. And honestly, I think a great announcer can make a game. It can be the difference in everything, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Well, I think like we're talking about before with coaches, knowing the game is going to be crucial. He knows the game. And I think it matters just as much here in play-by-play of guys that actually understand the game. That's why people like Ari and Anthony and JJ and Sed did so well with it, is they understood the game and they knew the game. And that makes a big difference because when Mike and Mike were doing it.
And Durazio did a good job too, by the way. Durazio did a good job, yeah. Yeah.
But when Mike and Mike were doing it, they weren't great. They were a great name to have, got us a lot of attention, but for their actual play-by-play work wasn't spectacular.
The NBC guys did okay, though. I think the NBC guys did okay, but it's funny how he's basically how Eli's going to be, staying off the TV unless they can convince him to come back to do a game or two like he did after the TNN deal ended in 2002, and he did some of the regional stuff for NBC for the AFL and NBC. But having a name like him, I think it gives a lot of it shows a lot that a lot of these guys do want to be involved in the AFL, especially with some of these markets and some of these teams. So it's, I love it. By the way, did you guys know, I don't know if you had heard about it, speaking of Eli Gold, did you know that he actually wrote a chapter about the AFL in his most recent book? Is it entire?
There you go, spending my money again, Tim.
I know. I downloaded the audiobook to hear him read it. It was nice. No pun intended. It was gold. No pun. But yeah, he had a whole. He had some behind the scenes story. It's like, again, you know how we say that a lot of these players cannot tell what usually goes on behind the scenes in the locker rooms and stuff like that. Stories that will never be told. Eli told some, and again, it was only partial stories. Some of these things will never be told. So yeah, if you have a chance, I know it's on Amazon. I have to go back if anybody in chat remembers what the name of the book is, or if I can find it, I'll.
Sorry, the Albany one.
No. He wrote one. He wrote one about his time being the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, but he did throw in a full chapter about the AFL.
So we got in deep in that chapter too, is what you're saying. So it's not even just
nice. Yeah. He had some. I was like, I mean, we're talking stories that happen on the buses and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this stuff. I love this type of stuff.
Oh, that's
Not
the
gonna lie.
best stuff.
I was gonna say the best stories always come after the camera shut off in any interview. It doesn't matter who it is, but that's what makes the professional side of the game so great. These guys are able to keep certain things out of the public eye and kind of keep a professional image intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are
I'll
mentioning, by the way, I too hope Ari Wolf does return for the broadcasts. I really do. I hope Ari returns.
Yeah, that's a must. That's an absolute must.
Real quick, we were touching on the NFL draft schedule earlier. I was trying to look it up. It looks like Saturday, April 27th, the rounds 4 through 7 start at noon Eastern. So I would imagine 7 p.m. Eastern's probably going to be right about the end of that draft. So
there we go.
That's a pretty good lead in. I mean, hopefully that's exactly what happens.
Well, and the NFL Combine ends, I think it's on March 3rd or March 4th. Sorry, Monday, March 4th. So
if we do hear something, I guess it would be either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week.
That would be my guess.
I'm guessing.
Just drop it at the Combine.
Yeah. Oh, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. We know you're here to watch some NFL athletes, but arena football.
Not all these guys will be playing in the NFL next year. Find them at the.
There you go.
But you're talking about that stuff, that off camera stuff, and I don't want to go into too many details, but like after the tryouts this weekend here in Kansas City for the Rampage, went out to dinner with the coaches and owners, and man, it was just some of the most fun I've had in a long time. LJ was posted in here a little bit ago. Dude's hilarious. I mean, we were sitting there, we cracked up the entire time. But on top of that, another experience, again, off camera, off time, sitting in the courtyard of the hotel in Stockton at the Arena Bowl, playing ping pong with it was
Dan Radabaugh was one of them.
Dan Radabaugh and Anthony and Ari and Joe Kleinsmith.
Yep.
And till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, these guys hollering at each other. No, man, I know the rules. Ari called ping pong in China at the Olympics, so he swore that he was ping pong god. These guys are hollering at each other in the middle of this courtyard of this hotel at 2 a.m. because they got early flights and they just weren't going to go to sleep anyway. Yeah, just a blast, just hanging out with these guys. It's that off time stuff that's a lot of fun. That's why I encourage people to take time, and go to the appearances, when they're out at a car dealership, just hanging out, hang out with these guys, talk to them, get to know them. That's where the gold, keeps going back to, that's where the gold is in this league.
Yeah, no, it's true. I love behind the scenes stuff. I do. I had that experience too this year, this past season at Grey Cup. So again, stories that will never be heard unless the book comes out, and but you know what I mean, by a player or a coach or whatever, a broadcaster. But yeah, one of the other topics that we saw this week was the questionable, I guess the questionable pricing structure for some of these teams when it comes to season tickets and it comes to single game tickets. I think two that were specifically called out. I think Minnesota was one that was called out really, than any of them. But
remember, Nashville is quite pricey too.
Yeah, Nashville too. What are your thoughts on this, guys? When it comes to tickets in general, when it comes to season tickets, I mean, obviously you want them to be affordable. But there are some have questioned, well, why are you paying X amount for a team, a league that has just come back with just a legacy name where you don't know how they're going to play, how the league's going to do, etc. I mean, Sam, if you were to I'm sure you've seen the prices for the tickets for these two cities as an example. Would you have an issue with them, or would you give them your credit card with no problem?
Man, that's tough. I say it's tough because I live in a market that would probably be on the higher side. If we had a team here. So with that in mind, yes. At the end of the day, if I knew that my only option to see arena football in my city was to pay for the season tickets, yes, I'd probably do it. Do I understand the anger behind it, the frustration, the questions behind it? Absolutely, I do. But at the same point, this comment right here kind of sums it up for me. Small markets are going to be cheaper, larger markets are going to be more expensive. I mean, it's kind of the nature of the beast. When you're going to an 8,000 seat arena versus a 20,000 seat arena, you should expect the cost to be substantially different. It's just part of the game, and that goes for any sport, any event, anything. It doesn't matter what it is. If you go to a concert and you're going to a concert that's at a 20,000 seat arena, you're probably going to pay substantially more than if it's at a 6,000 to 8,000 seat arena. It doesn't matter. I mean, and do I understand, again, the frustration? Yes. But at the end of the day, if you want your teams to be there, you kind of have to support them. And that's kind of a crass way to put it, but take it from a guy who hasn't had a team again until this season. It's been 6 seasons now. So we finally have the Spartans this year. So I'll be supporting them because they're in my city, they're in my state, and that's, in my mind, what you do.
Josh?
Yeah, I think a lot of what Sam said. You look at like Minnesota Myth, the Target Center. The overhead's a lot there. So I mean, you got to expect that tickets are going to be a whole lot more. Nashville, for example. One thing I thought about is Nashville's the only show in town. Really, they have no NBA, they have no baseball. They do have hockey, but I mean, they don't have a lot of other things going on. So there's not a lot of things to compete kind of in that time frame. So I think you got to look at things like that too, of what's going on in the city also. So.
Nashville doesn't have the sound anymore, or am I totally losing it? Or were they one of the teams that was contracted?
You're right. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but I mean, minor league baseball. Just, yeah.
Okay. Scott, because I mean, you I know you've spent the most on season tickets, I think, compared to all of us over the years. I mean, I had my 2 years when I was in Toronto, but that was like in the early 2000s and stuff like that. But when you saw those prices, I mean, did they make you question where they were going with this, or what were your thoughts?
I put myself, if I were in that market, thankfully my tickets are in Iowa this year. I've got front row seats for $150 each. It's a killer deal. But $150 in some of these other markets gets me nowhere near the field. I kind of wondered, what would I be doing? Am I spending, $400 for my 4-year-old to come sit with me down close to the field? I mean, I'd really struggle with some of these. I mean, I don't know that I could justify it as much as I would desperately want to do that. And it's not strictly a big market, small market thing too, because like, I believe it's Oregon has affordable seats, but they're not selling the season tickets, which is kind of odd that you can't buy their cheapest seats as season tickets. I don't know. Is
it Oregon that's doing the first come first serve?
I'm not sure. All I know is they've got different pricing tiers, and their cheapest ones. I had somebody reach out to me asking about this because he was wanting to get tickets. They just aren't available for season tickets, so you just got to buy them single game if you want in the end zones. Just like, why turn away anyone that wants to buy season tickets? But yeah, I don't know. I struggle. And I think the other part of the attraction of this sport is it is affordable. And if it's not affordable for a family to go and be close to the action, it's not good. I mean, I get there's extra costs, but it's supply and demand. If what demand are you going to have if no one wants to spend that much?
I think it's an issue too with some of these places where they're locked into Ticketmaster, and obviously that adds more charges. We all hate it when it comes to the garbage, the garbage fees that Ticketmaster slaps onto a ticket and stuff like that, and it can sour it even more, and knowing what you have to pay, considering you can only go through Ticketmaster, or what is the other one, ASX or
AXS?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess it's how much you want to support them and where you want to sit. You know, I mean, true. I can't, not wrong word. Arena football fans want to, if you want the best experience, you're going to want to sit within the first 3 rows, in my opinion. You know, 20 between the 20s.
Or front row end zone. That was always my go-to.
Yeah, I can't stand end zone seats.
I love it. On the wall, right there underneath the nets. I love that seat.
Now, mind you, the goal line, being able to sit in those for the goal line bandits in Spokane, that would be amazing, I'm sure. But yeah, I've seen some of the prices, so I think some of them are a little bit overpriced. Maybe. I mean, we don't really know many details yet, too, when it comes to, like, Minnesota as an example. I mean, it's been no secret that Arena Bowl is going to be played in Minnesota. The All-Star game is going to be played in Minnesota the day prior. Are their season tickets going to include those 2 games also? Do they include a playoff game and those 2 extras? I mean, if that's the case, hell, I take that any day.
Yeah,
because you're getting 8 games, you know, and a potential of either way you get an Arena Bowl and an All-Star game. I can't complain about that.
Yeah,
So,
that's not that's not a bad deal if you're getting an extra 50% more games for that. That's
I'm surprised
better.
I'm surprised nobody's asked the question.
Yeah, but that doesn't help Nashville any.
No, it doesn't help Nashville. No, that's true. That's
one thing on Nashville. I'm pretty sure they're having concerts too, so that's going to jack up the price of the ticket too, because they got to pay the people too. So
yeah,
well, and that's what all of these teams should be doing. You know, according to the commissioners, they are supposed to be having some concerts in between. We haven't heard a whole lot about that, other than they've have some good names lined up. You know,
Well, you talk about concerts, and this is one of the things that I've noticed recently, and somebody pointed it out to me too, is that, you know, we're trying to find out the dates and times and locations for all these games are going to be played. But for Louisiana, they had this graphic out a couple of weeks ago showing that, you know, they're going to be playing in Lake Charles, you know, specifically where Lake Charles was on this graphic itself on the ticket page. And then just recently it was pointed out to me, and I wouldn't have noticed it if it wasn't pointed out to me, is that they removed that idea of Lake Charles from the graphic. So that makes me wonder if there's going to be, I mean, I think there are some rumors of an announcement coming out of Louisiana, but I don't know what it's about. Them removing, I mean, is the team switching arenas? Is the team just removing the location of where you said you were going to be originally kind of opens the doors for a lot of things for this team, you know? So, and the other thing too, by the way, is that, you know, a lot of these places were touting celebrity ownership. Hasn't been mentioned yet in for Louisiana, which I think was back in day 1, if I'm not mistaken, at their press conference. But they had some interesting teasers. What I consider teasers, and some of the stuff that was released, some of this merch stuff. I don't know what it means. I don't know a lot about the music, the music industry, but I guess you can easily go down the rabbit hole. Well, I guess we'll find out. I mean, again, we are what? So we're the 27th. We have 2 months. We have 2 months.
And I've heard some rumors on that from credible sources, but even they weren't 100% sure. So it's nothing I want to get, you know, too public with yet. But
yeah.
I mean,
We don't.
The names are big.
We're not here to speculate, but we're just stuff that we just happen to notice.
Yeah.
Or at this
but
point
the names are big, at least with Louisiana. You know, whether it's exactly this person I was told or someone similar, it's going to be big. So I'm excited. I'm definitely excited to see what happens there.
I can't complain about that. I can't complain at all.
We got a lot happening in chat here for.
Yeah, I love it. 3 teams so far have radio deals. One is Iowa, one is Nashville, and does Albany have one yet?
I thought Southwest Kansas did.
Southwest Kansas. Yeah. Local TV, I guess that would all depend on how many of these games are going to be broadcast on national TV. I would say so. I would expect it for any of these games that aren't going to be broadcast on national TV. That they will either be, there'll be a local broadcast on the AFL app. So
I think that's going to be relied on heavy for anything that's not going to be broadcast.
Yeah,
It's just-
Solana article mentioned AFL Network. I was telling Scott the other day.
okay, it's probably something in conjunction with Humble through their app. I would imagine so. It's not going to be the AFL Network that it was for the last 2 years of the AFL. Hey, Scott, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's and a lot of this is just trying to piece together puzzles, and we don't know what the puzzle looks like in the end. So we're just kind of plugging in pieces to see where it fits.
We got the border. We got the border of the puzzle, but
yeah, so we're just trying to plug in pieces, see what fits, what sounds right. It's and hopefully no one's quoting us on much of these things, because there's a lot of speculation.
Yeah, there is a lot of speculation. Any other? I think we've gone through the original list that we had suggested. Any other things?
This week in Arena Ball mentioned something about the playoff schedule, because they were talking about, originally it was brought up that it was going to be neutral site games. I've gotten the impression they're getting away from that idea.
Yeah, I think the owners aren't kind of happy when it takes away a payday for their arena. But I mean, this year we technically have one neutral. Is it just one neutral site game? The Nashville game versus Georgia.
Technically neutral site. Yeah,
it's
an alternate home game, but yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, they couldn't use the arena that weekend. That was what the deal was. Yeah.
And they're doing that as their military appreciation night. Isn't it close to a military base or something that this?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that, but yeah.
So I imagine they'd probably doing something would be throwing a lot of tickets out the base's way to get many of them in as possible, would be my guess.
What are besides the TV stuff that we've talked about and finalizing, getting the names for actually all the arenas and stuff like that? Is there any other things that you hope come out? I mean, obviously, I'm a stats guy. I would hope that there is a media guide. I would hope. But then again, you go back to, it is technically a brand new league. Technically, you go based off of historical stuff. That's an example that is in the previous ones, and it's on ArenaFan, and they start a brand new one. I mean, you have legacy stats, and then you have current stats. I guess that's how I would call it. Not necessarily historical, but legacy stats.
Well, and how much do single season records even matter when you've had 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 game seasons? Single season records really kind of irrelevant at that point.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no consistency in your season length.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree.
No, it's fair. It's fair because it has been 4 years. It'll be 5 years by the time it kicks off.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see stats more, and across the board in all sports. I'd like to see stats more focused on a per game average, instead of great, LeBron James has scored more points than anybody, but he's played for decades at this point. I mean, just because you've been around forever doesn't mean you're the best.
Exactly. Here's a question that I think we kind of breezed over. I'm sure multiple of us here can answer this one. How do we feel about the deuce being rumored for the rule book? I don't believe that's a rumor anymore, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's fact.
Confirmed.
Yeah, it's been confirmed on a couple of the shows, on the coaches' shows and stuff like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Also, this is another rumor we can shut down. The rule book is out. That's also been spoken about on the coaches' shows.
It's just not physical. I mean, I'm the type of one I want a copy too, for sure, Sam. I mean, give me a copy. Whether it's digital or not, give me a copy.
Exactly. But it sounded like they were still tweaking it slightly too. Like it's out, but it's subject to change still.
And it was I think announced last week on
crazy to me.
on Flock U. It was announced that it is going to be 2 specialized positions.
I think that's what they said.
Down from 3. Yeah.
That's
three,
three.
three was NAL. 3 was NAL.
I say, yeah.
But it sounds like they're going back to the OG, quarterback and offensive specialist, and then you have how are they going to do it on defense? So
Now here's something for you guys. Traditionally, it was offensive, quarterback and receiver, and then a defensive back and what? Use 2 defensive backs as your specialists.
yeah, or bringing the punter or a kicker.
Yeah. But generally that's how it would be. Usually 2 defensive backs, a quarterback, and a receiver are your specialists.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on mixing that up? Getting a larger guy that maybe can play. They can shift from line to linebacker, offensive line to linebacker, and using a specialist on defensive line. Mixing things up, because I know it's not how it's traditionally done.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually
or putting specialists on the offensive defensive line instead of receiver.
That's actually something that I would love to see. I personally think that it makes a lot of sense to have your center be your offensive specialist. If I have one guy on my offense that's as important or close to as important as my quarterback, it's my center, in my opinion. Maybe I'm dumbing it down, and please don't hit my DMs, wide receivers. I love you all. You're all very talented, but to me, I think it's a little bit more specialized talent to snap a ball, read protections, decipher calls from the quarterback and all that versus what a wide receiver does. I'm not saying they're not talented. I think they're very talented, but I also think a wide receiver is also more capable of providing value on defense as well, because they can flip around, they can shadow a receiver. They've seen every route in the book, so at that point, I think they also have more value on defense. So in my opinion, center makes a lot of sense. I also like the idea that if you use your specialist at center, then you can flip that over and then you have a pass rusher that you can put in the field. So I really like that idea, Scott. I'm curious to see how many teams use it that way. I almost don't think there will be many, to be quite honest.
How would that differ though, guys, from regular? Because obviously we're playing Iron Man rules. Obviously, we don't currently know what the substitution rule will be.
Yeah.
Like in the old days, is that if you substituted for in Ironman football, you're done for the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Those are old school AFL rules.
It was longer than that too, wasn't it? At one point, and weren't you done for the game at some points, or at least the half?
No, wasn't that getting a penalty against you? I think
there was that the two offsides penalties or whatever, 2 false starts.
Yeah,
and you were out.
Yeah, 1 you're out for the half. 2 you're out for the half, and then 3 you're out for the game. Yeah, but how would it differ though when it comes to what you're suggesting, Scott, and Iron Man? Because
in Iron Man, we generally you would see that the defensive specialists be your cornerbacks and your safeties, and your offense specialist was almost always a wide receiver, along with the quarterback. I don't know that I've ever not seen offensive specialists be a lineman.
It's interesting. I'm curious to see how they're going to define it. That's what we need to see for these specialists is the definition.
I mean, if they have jersey limitations, I don't know if they're going to do that with numbers and whatnot. Then you wouldn't be able to swap. But with it being Iron Man and shifting positions,
you're right. I just forgot about that. You're right.
So there's I don't know. Like I said, I don't know that was even ever done in the old AFL that offensive defense specialists were on the line. I think that'd be an interesting experiment for sure.
I think situationally it makes a lot of sense. Now you have to be very, very creative with when you can kind of institute that. But if you're in the fourth quarter, you're up by a lot of points, it might make sense to bring in a pass rusher. I mean, again, I'm not a coach, so we'll see. But this week in Arena Ball asked our opinions on MVP favorites. I know that's very early, but I do kind of like the question. There are quite a few roster announcements at this point, so I think every team's got somebody out, except for Georgia. Sorry.
Can you really? Okay. To that question, can any of you honestly put a quarterback as current MVP, our favorite currently for an MVP? Because they really are, a lot of them, of the quarterbacks are really unproven. For me, the first person I think of is Darius Prince.
That was mine.
Immediately, I think of Darius Prince.
I would have gone Malik Henry if he was still with
Mhm.
Albany, because
Yep.
he has got that arena, role experience. But Prince is, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Now, somebody signed Arvell Nelson. All right.
Good point.
But he's not signed, at least not in the AFL. So, but yeah, Darius was my immediate thought.
Yeah.
As soon as the question came up.
I mean, some of the guys I know that have been in football, indoor football a while, the Rakeem Cato as an example. Is he a good quarterback? Yes. But do I think he's an MVP quarterback right now? No. So,
we were talking about this earlier, Tim, earlier today, that, back in AFL 1.0, Aaron Garcia was always good, never great, very often injured. I don't know, my first couple of years involved in the league, he never finished the season.
Mm-hmm.
He came back in AFL 2.0 and was elite. He was the quarterback of AFL 2.0. Until,
and that's having Dan Roundable there. That's still having, was Clint.
But they were all still young, So Dan was young, and Davila was young, and but Aaron Garcia came in as an experienced veteran and just lit up the league.
I forgot about Nicky D. Oh yeah.
So I mean, he came and just lit up the league because he was coming in as the most experienced. And I think there is that opportunity in 3.0 of seeing that let's say next tier down old AFL 2.0 player coming in being elite. Now Prince was elite to begin with, so again, that's where that automatically goes.
Well, I've said it too. I mean, we can choose who we think is our current favorite, but I always joke and I say, we look at these teams on paper, we really won't get a real good look at them until I guess we can see them in their first game, or maybe how the rosters mesh, but I always joke and I say, yeah, teams are made up. These teams are good on paper, but Albany's good on paper right now. Right. But paper burns. So, so, I mean, and anything can happen. So we've seen it before. It was Dallas. Dallas was good on paper, but they were total garbage.
Some playoffs.
Yeah.
Just like
address this week in arena ball here. Tommy Grady did it. He was phenomenal in 2.0. But that first year, he was coming out from the AF2. He wasn't an AFL quarterback coming into the new AFL. He's an AF2 quarterback coming to the AFL. That's that difference that first year.
I don't think that was a diss this week in arena ball. I think it was just a point that Albany looks great on paper right now, but what does paper mean right now?
Yeah.
Here's a great question, and I think this is more geared toward the fact that some of these quarterbacks making the jump over are more indoor football rules style. So Charles asks, how do you guys think Drew Powell will do in arena style play?
My first question is, does he take the ball from center, or is he a shotgun quarterback? I honestly don't know. If he's a shotgun quarterback, he's going to struggle.
There's a lot of shotgun in his game for sure. And
that's just it. There's not in the AFL. There is no shotgun in the AFL.
Exactly. And part of that is a lot of his game is running too. That he's always consistently among the top IFL rushers every year. So it's going to be interesting to see some of these guys fit. I mean, Ramon Atkins is another guy. He's a run, not a run first. He's a very adept passer, but at the same time, he's definitely a mobile dual threat guy. So it's going to be interesting. Here's an interesting comment as well. Charles McCollum is a sleeper for MVP. Another guy who's got some arena football experience. Bain. Yeah, good point. He was not very good with the Barnstormers this past season. So, he went back to Albany and played well. So it's been kind of interesting to follow these guys and in the transition between indoor and arena football rules.
To be fair, Barnstormers wasted a lot of talent in many years in that franchise. So
Is Bain coming? Has Bain been signed? Because I remember, didn't he just get absolutely walloped and hurt in Orlando?
He did. He's signed with West Texas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a good pickup.
They
I can
also
see-
have McCollum and man, I'm blanking one other quarterback. It's pretty solid.
Who's
those
the
are-
other one?
those are
Who's the other
Siegfried
one in
kind of guys,
Iowa
too.
besides Cato? Scott?
Oh man, recently.
Yeah.
Recently, I couldn't
I
tell
thought there was another name. It was a named quarterback that I actually recognized.
Or somebody has just signed or just announced they're signing today or yesterday. But I've been out of the Iowa for a couple of years now, so I'm a little behind in my Iowa.
No. I meant the Rampage.
Oh, the Rampage. Sorry, I'm talking Barnstormers for a second ago.
Rampage.
Rampage.
It's Cato and somebody
we had
else.
Cato and we had Lorenz at one point. I'm not sure if he's still with us or not. And Lorenz is a very talented, very athletic quarterback, but he's a shotgun quarterback. And that's so that just gets you killed in arena ball.
I'm trying to think who's the one who made a pretty decent conversion from the indoor game. I should know his name. It's killing me. Quarterback ended up playing for Orlando. Ended up getting hurt. Was a superstar, and it was with Sioux Falls.
Oh yeah, Dixon.
Yes, Chris Dixon.
Yeah. And even he wasn't phenomenal. Like
he did okay.
He was
the
an
problem is
all-star.
he never really got his chance because he got hurt in Orlando. So almost, I think it was 2 weeks in, and he got a season-ending something.
Yeah, but he was incredible in the IFL. Came to the AFL and was okay.
There goes your point about Drew Powell. How will he make the transition? Because you have some of these guys again who've played arena ball before.
I think the difference, though, too, is they're not coming into an established AFL. I think there's a big difference in that situation too. When you got a whole bunch of indoor quarterbacks in the league, it's a little more of a level playing field than coming in when guys have been playing arena ball around you for years.
Yeah.
So that's what makes this whole season such a wild card, though, is because you have so many new people. And I know I've said this a million times, but this is why I go back to coaching this season. I think coaching is huge this year. You need teachers. You need guys that connect with the players and know this game, specifically this game, and how to teach this game.
Yeah. So. Well, it probably leads us to another question there. I might as well go ahead and ask, since we're talking about players and MVPs and et cetera, et cetera. Currently, because I think, Sam, you'd probably be able to shed a little more light than I would, because I don't know everybody, but currently, in your opinion, the best coaching staff? Josh.
I'd say, I think Billings for sure, Cedric Walker, and Cedric Bonner. I think that's going to be a great staff. And they got another guy with NFL experience. Is it Quinn Mitchell? I think so. And then I think Chris Siegfried's going to be fun to watch. I don't know all his staff, but I think it's going to be fun to watch him coming back into the league.
That's a wild card, I will admit. Yep.
Yeah, EJ Birk with the Predators. Bobby Scipia's on that staff. That's going to be a good staff.
There's another one too there, man. Yeah. Holy crap.
Oh, yeah, just legends everywhere.
Yeah, and then Iowa's got pretty much all. We talk about Iowa. They've got pretty much all former AFL players, so that's going to be fun.
Albany too. Albany has some good names too. And Coach, I don't know much about Coach Ware. I've heard about his pedigree, but he's brought in some guys too, and I know Coach Ware can coach. But yeah, some of these rosters are going to be some of these coaching staffs are. I'm looking at Billings. I think I put Billings number 1 in my opinion. Billings and then Iowa 1, 2. Scott.
Yeah, you can't knock Billings. You can't. Siegfried, man, when he was here in Kansas City as our offense coordinator was phenomenal. He changed that franchise in 1 year, coming out of Spokane. But again, I keep going back to that same thing and saying over and over again. It comes to who knows the game and teaches the game at each level. And then you're talking Tanner Varner, LaRoche Jackson, Donovan Morgan. Just the entire up and down that Iowa coaching staff is just stupid. Like,
No,
I
it
mean,
is.
like it's just straight up stupid. I mean, and I don't want to take anything away from setting those guys up in Billings because I know they're great minds and are going to do great things up there. But every position in Iowa is covered with guys that know the AFL game. And I think that's priceless. I think this year.
Mhm.
Now next year, who knows? You know, guys get a whole season underneath their may change, but this first year, I think just knowing the game is going to be more important than anything.
I think Billings is going to be the best of the CIF teams that came over for sure, in my opinion. I think
I
it's
think
really
that-
well ran. So
We had somebody just mentioned. Don't forget, I'm assuming that's supposed to be Purify.
Yeah, Mo Purify.
Yeah, he's no longer with the Rampage this season. So they brought in Donovan Morgan to fill in his spot. So, which I mean,
I was about to say.
Okay, you know. I mean,
Yeah. By the way, just a quick shout out to the Facebook user. Your name is not showing up in the chat because you need to go back to the page itself, and you need to give your approval. You need to basically, it's not register again, but you got to give approval again to the page itself in order for your name to show up in the chat, just for future reference. That happened to me too. I was like, I'm not a Facebook user.
so, yeah, it's tough though. It's tough to beat. I mean, like I said, it's just that experience is, like I said, priceless this year.
Yeah,
absolutely priceless this year.
Question was brought up earlier too. They're talking about the rule book. I'm under the impression, yes, the 1 minute, it will be the womb is back. The warning of 1 minute will be back. It won't be the 30-second timing rules go into effect. I hated that. God, I hated that.
Horrible.
That was horrible. But yes, the warning of 1 minute will be back.
No,
So
they
but
were.
the question is though, will they allow the kneel down, or will you have to gain positive yards?
So last I heard on that, again, it was still up for debate at the time, is that they were not allowing the kneel down unless you were up by X amount of points.
Okay, that's a bring over from the IFL. Is that IFL and NAL?
They both do that.
Sort of, yeah, I think so.
Because I mean that makes sense. If the game's just out of hand, there's no reason to.
I'm with Zach. I would love to gain yards. I love that.
Oh yeah, but if you're trying to keep it, especially on a broadcast, you're trying to keep it in a certain window. That's the thing about these AFL games that I think people that are coming from the indoor game, if you're coming from there, these games are faster. Like not just in terms of the play, but in terms of the time it takes to run one of these games. Some of the longest games I've ever been to were IFL games. Like sometimes they're just slow and the clock stops for every time they got to move the ball, set the ball, it stops till they get the ball set. It just AFL game flies. Like it's 2.5 hours if you're lucky.
Facts, Zach. Facts. I agree with you. I hated the kneel down. I hated the kneel down.
That's what you have a fullback for. You don't need to kneel it down. Come on.
I would love for the NFL to pick up the same strategy. I mean, how much more interesting would these NFL games get if gain a yard or the clock stops?
Exactly. As far as the coaching staffs go, I like what you guys said. I think that Albany has a solid staff. A lot of guys that have experience in the game as well. Although it was in the NAL, not the AFL, I still think it'll translate pretty well. Billings has a solid staff. Iowa's staff is, as you guys said, unreal. I mean, the fact that they were able to get all those guys on one staff is pretty impressive. I'm really curious about who we see in Georgia. With Durwood Rockmore there, he's going to have a pretty good pick of assistants, and I wouldn't be surprised if his staff is pretty star-studded as well. I'm curious who has the biggest staff in the league, because that might actually be an inherent advantage that a lot of people aren't really necessarily looking at. You look at a lot of these staffs around the league and they're 3-4 guys, which is okay in Ironman football to an extent, but at the same time, I feel like a little bit more individual coaching it can be an advantage to some people.
I kind of feeling that probably these teams are going to probably double up on what they're going on the coaching positions because, this isn't the NFL. CFL is limited. They do have bigger staffs, but they're limited by their coaches cap. They actually have a coaches cap in the CFL. And some of them do double up. So Honestly, I'm trying to remember the old days. I think no more than. I don't think it should be any more than 5. In my opinion, I don't think it should be any more than 5. And if anybody knows if there is a coach's cap in the new AFL, let us know. But I think
cap.
no cap.
No,
Well, I mean,
not-
there's a pay cap, but I believe it falls under that $700,000 cap, which
Okay.
who cares at that
Yeah.
point.
It's fair.
But so I just saw that someone just came up that I thought was kind of interesting, and something I don't think has been touched on. Talking about the game ball, which ball they decided to go with. A thing that fans need to remember too, especially coming from the NAL and the IFL and the CIF for that matter, the ball's bigger. They play the AFL plays with an NFL size ball. It's actually a larger ball, and it's going to be interesting to see what these quarterbacks do. They're used to throwing, and the receivers for that matter. The quarterback's throwing a larger ball than they're used to throwing. That could change a lot of things too.
That's true. I think for most of the tryouts that we've been seeing, they've been using regulation balls, haven't they? Because I don't think a lot of the teams have had their game balls delivered
No, they
yet.
haven't come in. Yeah, they haven't come in yet.
So I'm
So,
sure
but-
sooner or later, if anything, I would hope that we'll see one of the new game balls, an actual game ball in the wild. Other than just the prototype that we've been seeing as of late, but they've some of these quarterbacks have to get used to it. But then again, if you've played quarterback in for high school, university, etc., you just you're just not throwing a Nerf football in the AFL. you're actually throwing a regulation size football.
Part of the reason why it translates for quarterbacks.
No, Alex is true though. Alex is correct though. Actually, it was slightly smaller.
Alex knows his stuff. I
I
mean,
know.
he is a true historian of the game, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
And
I got one here. I got
and-
one over my thing here. So I think Scott, you do too. You have one of the other ones? Yeah.
Couple back there. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it. Yeah, I could see it.
And they weren't supposed to be though. They're supposed to be according to the rules, NFL size and weight. So,
I think what was the company? Game.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know.
I don't remember. Can't remember what that last year.
Game Time. Is it Game Time? I think Game Time or something like that, or something like that.
That last year was a blur. Then the logo changes and everything else just kind of wild.
Yeah.
Alex Coleman asked about the game balls. I've got pretty much every type of game ball since 2006. So AFL and AF2. I got the military stripe one back there, the breast cancer stripe, the 25th anniversary silver stripe. So yeah, pretty much every kind since 2006.
Agreed, Charles. Agreed. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I've seen worse.
Yeah.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah. Any other topics you want to bring up, guys, for this episode? I know we're an hour and a half in, but I mean, we love talking about arena football, and we know there's going to be some more announcements coming out. I would imagine this week, and then obviously what was supposed to be today, we're hoping it was going to be, the net 10 balls are like rugby balls. No, the net 10 balls were just normal Spalding balls.
They always did feel extra fat around the center, though.
Oh, did they?
I don't know. I've always kind of noticed that, but I think that is the whole NFL size and weight. They're just larger, and I'm curious to actually, especially after that first game, talking to one of these quarterbacks, say, hey, how is it?
Yeah.
Even after first week of camp, hey, how is it? This is different than you're used to. So I'm curious to hear some of that kind of feedback.
Yeah, I'm curious to get a hold of one too and see what it's like. Cause I remember holding the most recent AFL ball. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So it's, any other things we talk about, guys? Like I said, I know we've been talking, but we can talk for hours when it comes to the AFL and stuff like that. I would imagine that a lot of us, if there's some big announcements coming up over the next couple of days, or maybe next week, it's very possible that that we'll either have a round table, if possible, if it'll work out, or we'll all have our own reaction type of shows. So stay tuned for all of our socials. But I don't want to cut anybody off. Any other topics you guys want to bring up real quickly before we leave?
Anybody want to plug stuff coming up?
Sam, you always have stuff, dude.
Just subscribe to our channel, click those notifications. I could sit here and rattle off everything we got going on for days, especially right now. The one thing I do want to kind of plug right now is our pride and joy at the moment. No offense to any other shows we got going on right now, but Marshall's Law, we're really excited about the fact that we got to get that off the ground for 2024. So we're doing a team show for the Rapid City Marshals, trying to bring a little bit of positivity around the team. They've had a lot of negative events the past couple of years, and I think it's really unfortunate that they've got so much negative energy around them, because Wes and Rebecca are great. You see them all over TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all these different places where they're just trying to bring some positive energy around the team, and we're trying to help. So
they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was watching the show before we came on tonight. I think that was being broadcast tonight. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned something. I'm hijacking here. Thoughts? It was shown Billings and a couple of the other, I'm going to call it CIF division teams, got their nets systems this week.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they got to be painted because they looked a little weird, but that's a positive. I think it can show fans that there are steps the league can go, leading up to kickoff for all these teams.
Yes,
if they're getting their net systems and the apparatuses for the nets, they're going to get them up in the arenas, see how they work out. I'm curious to see how they're going to work out in each of these smaller arenas. I really am curious to see these things, because as you and I have talked about before, Scott, it's if it's like it was in Hawaii made no sense for that. Anyways, I'm hijacking here. That's for another topic for another day. Sam, are you finished?
Yeah, I'm good. That's all I needed. Thanks, guys.
Joshua?
So we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. I think the most pressing thing coming up, I think we got some interviews with the Orlando Predators coaching staff the next few days. So,
yeah. And again, expect a cease and desist from my lawyers. I'm kidding. Scott?
So I had to pull up that picture of the netting. I saw the trailer with the boxes, but I hadn't actually seen the frames yet. So I had to pull up that picture. I'm excited to see those, because from what I understand, they're aluminum and significantly lighter.
Different. Yeah,
significantly lighter than the old system. So that's going to help a lot of these teams, especially with the lesser infrastructure.
And they're going with the nets that I love, the radio bar nets system, rather than the old stuff they had in San Jose. And
I wonder
what Orlando's going to have. I guess since Orlando owns it already, I imagine that they're going to be the only ones they're going to be going with version 2.0 of the net system.
That's a good question, especially because I know
Salina Albany's also got them, as well as West Texas.
They actually have. Yeah, Albany has them already. Yeah, that's true, because they have the refitted ones that they had in 2019, where you could put advertising on the bottom.
And Salina had Phillies, so I'll be curious to see what they end up going with, especially since they've got one end zone they can't hang from.
Ooh, so interesting.
Yeah, so it's gonna be real interesting. But anyway, get back on subject. So we can do this for hours. Tomorrow night, shooting for 6:00. We're gonna be doing our first Wichita coaches show. So I was able to track those guys down, and we're gonna start hopefully doing a weekly show with those guys, as well as the Rampage. Probably not gonna be able to get to the Rampage this week just due to scheduling conflicts, but hopefully we'll be doing both every week from here on out.
Okay, you have a name for the new show?
No, actually, we're gonna throw it out to the folks joining us in tomorrow and see what they can come up with. So right now it's just the generic Wichita coaches show, regulars coaches show.
Okay.
So
And
Yeah,
that's and that's obviously it's going to be broadcast on your YouTube page. It's AFL Fan
YouTube.
Zone Network.
Yeah, Fan Zone Network. Yeah, it'll be on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. So it'll be broadcasting all those all at once. So if you can find us, we'll be there.
Okay. We're still in historical mode over at ArenaFan, but we are getting everything set up for the fans. Again, if you want to check out the current schedule that it currently is out there, you can head over there to the schedule page. Also, same thing if all the head coaches they're currently there over at arenafan.com. Possibly doing bringing back AFL Rewind next week. That is going to be now our podcast. It will be audio and it will be in video format now. So just stay tuned to all of our socials. That's at ArenaFan. Or you can, if you want to follow all of us on X also, because we're all there, and just join the conversation. Talk about the Arena Football League. Talk about anything you guys like, because if you stuck with us for an hour and 40 minutes this week, we loved having you here. So
couldn't say it better.
Yeah. So stay tuned. Again, we'll hope to have another roundtable very soon. We know we have some guys who want to join the conversation to talk about the AFL, but we appreciate everybody who's joined us this week. And Joshua, thanks for joining us, buddy. Greatly appreciated. Love hearing what you're doing. And no, my lawyers are not coming after you. I promise you that. Scott, again, good talking with you, buddy. And same with you. Same with you, Sam. Greatly appreciate you guys being here this week. So we'll talk to you very soon. And let's hope for a lot of upcoming positive announcements from the Arena Football League. Until then, see you guys later. Bye.
Take care, all.